serial killer. You know, serial killers are rarer now, aren't they? Because people get caught more quickly, don't they? Because of sorry, I'm just trying to. I need to take that off now. Hang on. People, because of DNA, etc., people tend to get caught more quickly. So I don't think we'll ever have another serial killer case like Ted Bundy or the Green River Killer, you know, where their victims went into hundreds, you know, because they were just really unchallenged, I suppose. No DNA in those days, or limited, you know, people crossing state lines, like with Ted Bundy in particular. And, you know, I think now you've got the, in America anyway, there's CODIS and all those kind of things. So it's harder, I think, it would be harder for a serial killer to operate for a great length of time nowadays. But they're still probably going to get a good few murders before they get caught. And this guy, as far as we know, 3 murders. Now, when you hear one of the situations of one of the murders that is performed, but you won't be able to believe it. Anyway, it also is being questioned. Did this guy, let me just put this picture up. Did this guy have other victims? Now, the first thing that struck me about this guy when I looked at his mugshot, and I've been trying to just put his photo up, but it wasn't letting me before. Let me just try again. Is, to me, where's that gone? That's just disappeared. To me, he looks like he does not give an absolute shit. That's how he looks to me. When you look at his mugshot, he just almost looks amused by it all. You know, he's got that sort of almost a smile in his eyes. I'm going to try and bring up a proper picture of him. You know, just doesn't care. And he doesn't care, literally does not care. He's your typical psychopath, in my opinion, who does not care about the miseries inflicted on people. You know, literally doesn't care. Here we go. I can put this picture up. So this, I think, was his mugshot. I don't know which one, because he was arrested there. Look, he don't care, does he? He's just like, oh, well, you know. Oh, mugshot. Oh, couldn't give a shit. The other thing that strikes me, always pick on vulnerable people that are vulnerable in one way or another, don't they? Because they're the easiest victims. So elderly women are, I think, the most common victims of serial killers, believe it or not. So they're vulnerable for 2 reasons. First, because they're a woman, and because they're elderly. Children, of course, they pick on serial killers, and sometimes it's not because they're particularly, you know, they may not necessarily be PDFs, you know, who naturally would be attracted to children. Sometimes it's just because children are easier victims, easier to get them into their cars or whatever, because they can just pick them up. They can't fight back because they're only little, you know. So most predators, they pick on people who are vulnerable for one reason or another. So yeah, elderly people, women particularly, children, and then in this guy's case, homeless people. Homeless people are vulnerable, because if you were homeless, And not everybody is homeless through fault of their own. You know, a lot of people associate homelessness with drug addiction and all this kind of thing. It's not always the case. Everybody is only 3 paychecks short of being homeless, really. I've nearly been homeless many times. You know, it's hard. Life is hard financially, etc. Or maybe you have a mental breakdown or something like that. You get thrown out. You know, homelessness isn't always somebody's fault. But then once you're homeless, you're living amongst other homeless people, of course, some of which are twonks like this guy, some of which are drug addicts. I don't know if he was a drug addict or alcoholics, or have real mental health issues, which makes them violent towards other people. And the thing is, if you're homeless, you don't have a choice, do you? You might be living in some homeless refuge. You don't know who you're mixing with, what their story is. This man is a very, very dangerous man. And to show you how dangerous he is, while he was on remand for murdering 2 homeless men, he murdered his cellmate in prison. He strangled him to death. We're going to read about the story in a moment, go through the details. His poor cellmate, I mean, we don't know what his cellmate was in there for. Maybe he was on remand as well. Maybe it was shoplifting, TV license. Who knows why he was in prison? We don't know if he was a bad person or not. We don't know who he was. Or I don't think we do. It might come up in the article that I'm going to read you. So he was sharing a cell with this tosser. And let me just do this. Turn the sound down on there. Yeah. So he, sadly for him, was put to share a cell with this twonk, and he was snoring. So his crime was he was snoring. So this man is called James Desborough, and he was in prison on remand for murdering 2 homeless men at a homeless camp in Cornwall in the UK. And he's an absolutely obsessed with Dexter, the TV show Dexter. Now, sadly, I mean, I love Dexter. I don't know if you've ever watched, you know, the TV show Dexter. It's a brilliant series. It's about a serial killer who was brought up by his dad to only, because his dad was a law enforcement and accepted that Dexter was a serial killer or a fledgling serial killer. He realized it from his behavior when he was young, killing animals, etc. So what he did was he taught him to only kill people who deserved it. So only to kill other killers, never to kill innocent people. So that is the difference between this twonk and the character Dexter. Because in the TV series, that's what Dexter does. He hunts down really bad people who have killed other people, and he kills them. He dismembers them. I mean, it sounds awful, but it's a brilliant series. And he hides the bodies. And he works in law enforcement. He's a blood spatter expert. He works, is it LAPD? I think it's in LA he works. Anyway, I can't remember the police. Is it San Francisco somewhere? I don't know. Anyway, so Dexter is an iconic TV series that's been on for years, decades. And sadly, it has got a lot to answer for, because lots of times I've covered crime shows, you know, crime cases, where they turn out to be absolute, you know, adore Dexter, think Dexter's brilliant. Becky Watts' killer, her own brother Nathan, he was a Dexter fan. So people watched Dexter. Thing is, you can't. I mean, I watched Dexter and I think it's a great series, but it doesn't make me want to go out and murder someone and dismember them. Oh, but it did with this guy. He is a great aficionado of Dexter, and his favourite bits in the Dexter shows were the dismemberments, and he got tips, obviously, of how to dispose of bodies or whatever. So that's what he did to at least 2 homeless men in Cornwall from the homeless camp where he was living. And then, as it though that wasn't so, while he was in prison on remand for their murders, his poor cellmate, and I don't know what he did. Maybe he did something terrible. I don't know, but we don't know what he did. Nobody deserves to be strangled in their sleep because they're snoring. And that's what he did to him. So his cellmate was snoring, so he strangled him to shut him up, killed him in prison. I mean, if I was that man's family, you'd have something to say about the prison. I don't think anyone sheds many tears when a PDF or a baby killer or someone who's done terrible things, a child killer, is killed in prison. Nobody really sheds many tears, do they? But even that really shouldn't happen, should it? I mean, prison's not supposed to be a place where people can just indulge their psychotic tendencies on whatever prisoner happens to be handy. How was a man this dangerous? I don't know what the other guy did that he murdered. Maybe he was a killer as well. I don't know. Maybe he was an absolute twonk and he deserved it. I don't know. But it just seems to me a bit lax of the prison authorities, doesn't it? You still have to be strangled for snoring in prison. So that was one of his victims, the third victim, but he'd already killed the 2 homeless men. So he's just been found. He was found guilty of all these murders, these 3 murders. Sorry, I lost my chat then for a minute. I'm just going to find it again. In fact, I should have my phone set up so I can read the chat as I go. How does somebody goes to prison? How do they get murdered? Really, being murdered in prison, it's not on, is it? What, as I say, I know that if somebody, there have been famous cases of people murdered in prison and people sort of celebrate it. But I think the thing that we mustn't forget either is the ones that murder even these horrible people, they're not good people. They're not heroes for murdering them. They're normally in there because they've murdered maybe not a child, but a woman, or they've done something terrible themselves. Otherwise, they won't be in prison with these horrible twonks. So the people, even though they're murdering twonks, and I say a lot of people don't shed tears over these horrible people, but it still shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. And they're not heroes. They're bad people themselves in general. I think we have to remember that. Not, give them a medal and all that. They're not good people themselves, or they wouldn't be in that prison in the first place. Right, sorry, I'm just trying to get my chat up on the phone so that I can just look at the phone and I don't have to keep going backwards and forwards. Trying to get my chat up on the phone. There you go, I can see my chat now. So, that's him. So he's murdered 2 homeless people, murdered another poor guy in prison just for snoring. And so he received, miraculously, a whole life tariff. In other words, and these are very rare, I was surprised he got a whole life tariff because I don't think there was any sex element in these murders. Maybe it's just the volume of murders, the fact that he murdered someone in prison. I don't know, but the judge decided to give him a whole life tariff, which for those who don't know what it is, it's like life without parole. Very rare in Britain that these sentences are given out. There's not many prisoners get given a whole life tariff. It's very, very unusual. So he's got one. Good, because he should never be released. But the problem is, he found it easy enough to find someone to murder in prison as well. So when you look at his face there, you really would not know he was a murderer, would you? I don't think he's got the same evil eyes as sometimes we see. To me, what the look he's got on his face is, I just don't give a shit. It's not so much it's like he's almost finding it amusing. It's like, yeah, oh yeah, murdered 3 people. Oh well, ha. What are you gonna do? Like, ha. Shit happens. That's the sort of look he's got, isn't he? He's almost smiling. What a weirdo. Anyway, he's not coming out, so we won't be able to murder anyone on the outside again. But of course, he'll be in what they're going to do? Just keep him in a cell. He can't go in a cell with another prisoner, can he? Not after he's already murdered one for snoring. Surely they cannot put him in a cell with anybody else again. I don't know. It's weird. Very weird. So let's read the article, because we have to remember it. So the thing about his victims in the homeless shelter, they're, as far as I know, they weren't criminals. They were just homeless. Being homeless is not a crime, is it? As I say, anyone can, just because someone's homeless, maybe for no fault of their own, might not be because they're drug addicts or alcoholics or criminals. A lot of people are homeless. Honestly, it's something, I think, unless you've ever been in the shadow of homelessness, you can't really understand how easy it could be to become homeless. That's what I think. So the fan of serial killer TV show guilty of double murder, James Desborough killed Daniel Coleman and Claudio Aquilino last summer. The 3 men had lived together in a homeless shelter. Desborough was previously convicted of murdering his prison cellmate. God, let's see if we can see this video. Hope it starts okay. The videos don't always work dead well, but let's see if it works. Go back to the beginning.
Hundreds of burnt bone fragments, a shallow grave, and a cabin deep in remote Cornish woodland. This is the story of the triple murderer, James Desborough. After a 6-week trial at Winchester Crown Court, the 40-year-old has just been convicted of murdering Daniel Coleman and Claudio Aquilino. The 3 men had previously lived together at a homeless
it's whirring a bit.
Shelter.
You can hear it.
In July last year, James Desborough was living in his cabin deep in Paramore Woods near St Austell. At the time, police were searching land nearby for Daniel Coleman. He'd been reported missing. Desborough was present and told one of the forensic biologists that he particularly enjoyed the dismemberment scenes in the TV serial killer drama Dexter. Shortly after, police uncovered a hidden, shallow grave. In it, they found Daniel Coleman's torso, feet and legs.
Oh,
An axe was hanging in the tree nearby. But this investigation was about to get much bigger. Just 1 month later, officers discovered more than 1,900 burnt bone fragments. DNA analysis was carried out.
1,900 bone fragments. You know, this guy's had a field day, hasn't he? Out in the countryside there, out in the woods, chopping up these poor guys, burning them, hiding them. Oh, he's had a great time.
And those fragments belonged to Claudio Aquilino, who'd been missing since April.
Oh,
this sparked a huge police response, with officers being drafted in from forces across the country to help with this growing investigation. Dozens of saws, knives, hammers and machetes were found during
oh my God.
the searches.
Look at that. Machetes, hammers, saws, all found as they were searching. You know, oh, he's a charmer, this guy. He's an absolute bloody charmer, isn't he?
The jury in the trial also heard that Desborough had tried to cover his tracks following the murders by using the bank cards of his victims. In addition to the 2 murders in the woods, we can now fully report that while on remand in HMP Exeter for the murder of Daniel Coleman, Desborough strangled his cellmate, a man called Stephen Kempster, who he'd been angry at for snoring.
James.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, James, I'm a police officer. The time is 17:12, and at this time you're under arrest on suspicion of murder.
Oh, just look, this is where he got arrested, actually, in his cell. He's bloody massive, isn't he? He's a big, strong guy as well. He's terrifying, really. Though I don't think he looks like a psychopath. But apparently one of his victims had phoned up with concerns about him, said that he was loopy before he was killed, the Aquilina guy. He had phoned up to complain and say, look, this guy is like not right in the head, he's loopy. And he was right, because he then killed him. Dismembered him, all those bone fragments found, started using his credit cards and things, or his cards, to make it look like he was still alive. I mean, he's a complete twat, isn't he? We're going to watch this one more time in a minute, this video. Hi, Louise.
He was convicted of his murder in March this year.
You finished?
Yes.
Go for
Just hold on a second. We're going to bag your hands up for forensic opportunities, okay?
After his killing spree and for dismembering, burning and burying bodies, Desborough is now facing life in prison.
Yeah. He literally, in his mugshot, to me, don't look like he cares at all. He's like, oh, he's probably quite
Hundreds
enjoying
of
it.
burnt bone fragments, a shallow grave, and a cabin deep in.
Because this is something I've said before. When people go to prison, when they're he's homeless. So he goes to prison, he's probably thinking, oh, this is great. You know, I've got 3 meals a day, I've got a roof over my head, I've got bed to sleep in. You know, it's not any worse than how he was living before, homeless in the woods or in a tent or whatever. In fact, his life is better, and he can even murder someone if he feels like it, because that's what he did. Do you know, he's probably like the big I am in prison. you know, because he's a big guy. The other prisoners will be scared of him after what he's done. And so he'll have some sort of kudos in prison as well. Sometimes people like it in prison because they like being the top dog in prison. I bet he's one of them. And the one thing I want to say as well, you know, twonks like this makes me angry about how they ruined the woods for people. I used to love walking in the woods. Now, I wouldn't go on my own. I was always walking with somebody else, a friend or my ex-partner. But the last time I was in Berkshire a few years ago, my friend took me for a walk in the woods because she knew I would want to go because I adore the woods. And I saw a shelter in the woods there. Now, you never used to see that before. Never. You could walk in the woods, you would never see makeshift houses in the woods. And we walked past this shelter, it had been built up against a tree. And it frightened me because you don't know who's living in there. So suddenly, now you're fucking terrified of walking in the woods because you might bump into some twonk like him. So he's not the only one. There's lots of people live. It's because a result of homelessness and things. People go and live in the woods. And so that means that when you want to walk your dog through the woods and whatever, you don't know who you're going to bump into. It happened to that lady, was her name April or Avril, who was walking her dog Bruce, got murdered by a homeless man. You know, obviously it's not normal homeless people aren't going to murder you, are they? But there's some out there that have got mental health issues, or maybe they're just so desperate for money, they're after money, or maybe they are drug addicts or whatever. But it's been ruined walking in the woods. Now you take your life into your hands if you walk in the woods. Terrible. Thanks to twonks like this. Well, he's one twonk at least that's out of the way, but there'll be loads of others out there.
Remote Cornish woodland. This is the story of the triple murderer, James Desborough. After a 6-week trial at Winchester Crown Court, the 40-year-old has just been convicted of murdering Daniel Coleman and Claudio Aquilino. The three men had previously lived together at a homeless shelter in Newquay. In July last year, James Desborough was living in his cabin deep in Paramore Woods near Austell. At the time, police were searching land nearby for Daniel Coleman. He'd been reported missing. Desborough was present and told one of the forensic biologists that he particularly enjoyed the dismemberment scenes in the TV serial killer drama Dexter. Shortly after, police uncovered a hidden, shallow grave. In it, they found Daniel Coleman's torso, feet, and legs. An axe was hanging in the tree nearby. But this investigation was about to get much bigger. Just 1 month later, officers discovered more than 1,900 burnt bone fragments. DNA analysis was carried out, and those fragments belonged to Claudio Aquilino, who'd been missing since April. This sparked a huge police response, with officers being drafted in from forces across the country to help with this growing investigation. Dozens of saws, knives, hammers, and machetes were found during the searches. The jury in the trial also heard that Desborough had tried to cover his tracks following the murders by using the bank cards of his victims. In addition to the 2 murders in the woods, we can now fully report that while on remand in HMP Exeter for the murder of Daniel Coleman, Desborough strangled his cellmate, a man called Stephen Kempster, who he'd been angry at for snoring.
Okay, James.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, James, I'm a police officer. Time is 17:12, and at this time you're under arrest on suspicion of murder.
He was convicted of his murder in March this year.
You finished?
Yes. Just hold on a second. We're going to need to bag your hands up for forensic opportunity. Okay?
After his killing spree and for dismembering, burning and burying bodies, Desborough is now facing life in prison.
Oh, so there you go. Unbelievable, isn't it? Hi, Boxing World. Thank you for those jewels. Very nice, very pretty. Thank you so much for sending those. What is it? 500 jewels, tulips. Thank you so much. Very kind. Thank you. Yeah. So this twonk, that's what we do know that he's done. He's murdered the two homeless men and disposed of them in the woods, dismembered them because he's a fan of Dexter's. And then he strangled his prison cellmate just because he was snoring and it was irritating him. Absolutely terrible, isn't it? So he's a man that he is beyond redemption. He's never going to be released. He's received a whole life tariff. So what I just want to look at is why they think that he may have murdered other people. Let's see what it says about him. So yeah, and don't forget, he apparently told a forensic specialist, a forensic biologist, he particularly enjoyed the dismemberment scenes in the show Dexter. You know, most of us watch Dexter and think, oh, it's a good series, and you know, Dexter's like this anti-hero because he is a killer at the end of the day, but he's almost like a vigilante. You know, he's killing people who deserve it, you know, who've already murdered other people. That's his rule. They must have already murdered other people for him to kill them. And then twonks like this go around thinking they can just kill innocent people, and they think they're copying their hero, Dexter. So in 2025, he murdered Claudio Alquilino and Daniel Coleman. And while he was awaiting this trial, he murdered his cellmate, Stephen Dexter, for annoying him. So all three of those murders took place in 6 months, within 6 months. So he murdered 3 people within 6 months. So I'm just going to share this article, actually. I feel like somebody might have just... Oh, Sean. Sean has sent me, is it a PayPal? Thank you, Sean, so much for the PayPal. I don't think it was a Ko-fi, was it? Because it didn't come up like that. It must be a PayPal. Thank you, Sean. You're very supportive. Thank you so much. Yeah, that would be a good thing, wouldn't it, Louise? Put Monster One in with him. Put Preston Davies murder in with him. I'm sure he'd irritate him. Don't you just know he'd irritate me? You know, you could see that Monster One is going to irritate whoever he ends up in a cell with. Yeah, put him in with him. God, that would be, you'd like to be a fly on the wall, wouldn't you, if those two were in the same cell? I think Monster One would, you know, would irritate this guy so easily. Oh, sorry, I'm putting the wrong things up here. What am I doing? Pressing the wrong buttons. The wrong buttons. The wrong buttons even I'm pressing. PayPal. Thank you, Sean. I've received that. Thank you so much. You're very, very kind. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up on the chat there. If I miss anything in the chat, I'm sorry. I'm trying to I've lost it on my phone. I've lost the chat on my phone, and things just disappear. But anyway, right. So yeah, I wanted to read this. Oh, I wanted to show you this. So these are the two guys. Poor guys. Homeless. Unfortunately, they've come into contact with him. He's murdered them, chopped them up, dismembered them, buried them in the woods. Daniel Coleman and Claudio Alquilino. So he is now a serial killer because he's killed 3 men in separate incidents over 5 months. So he was tried at Winchester Crown Court, and it says here he will be sentenced. Well, he has received a whole life tariff. So he accessed their bank accounts, spent their money, and attempted to cover up his crimes after they had disappeared. And during the trial, the jurors were told about his conviction for Kempster's murder. So the bodies of Mr. Coleman and Mr. Alquilino were found dismembered and burnt in a remote wood near where Desborough lived in a cabin. That's what I mean. You can't go into the woods now. You can't go into the woods because there might be some twonk like him in there. You don't take your life into your hands going for a walk in the woods. So the 3 men had previously lived together in a homeless shelter in Newquay. And the court heard that the remains of both men were found by police in Paramore Woods, near Sticker. I don't know that area at all. Might look it up actually on Google and we'll have a look where it is. I don't know that. I've never been there, never heard of it. Paramore Woods sounds lovely. Sort of self-explanatory, really, isn't it? Is that where Paramore's to have sex? Now they go to dismember people. God, it's a small woodland area near the village of Sticker in Cornwall in England. And there was a massive months-long excavation backed by the National Crime Agency and Home Office scientists. So he's 40, James Desborough, the man who did it, and apparently met them at the homeless shelter. Terrible, isn't it? Really? Terrible, terrible. I used to love the woods. Not anymore. I don't think I'll be going for a walk in the woods anymore. So yeah, more than 1,900 legs and feet were discovered. Oh, so can you see this? This was an axe that was found in the tree. I don't know if you can see that very well yet. You can see it. That was an axe that was found in a tree. Yeah, exactly, Sean. There'll be lots of homeless living in the woods who aren't dangerous, but can you take that chance? Imagine coming up against him in the woods. He's got all these weapons. He's got an axe hanging in the tree. These bodies all around the woods that the dismembered fragments, bone fragments that he's put there. And you're walking through it round with your dog, not even realising what danger you're in. Terrible. So, and along with the bodies, police found several handwritten notes, "I am a killer and ready to execute any predators." And another said, "Take care of the remaining Muppets." And he was also making plans to leave the UK weeks before he was arrested. Oh, he probably would have come to Spain because all them criminals from the UK come to Spain. So, all people that whinge about immigrants going to the UK and committing offences, well, British people that commit offences, we end up with them here. God, he could have come to me for Spanish classes. I wouldn't have even known. You know, I've had a few dodgy people come for Spanish classes over the years that I've taught Spanish. There's only one that I ever thought I really did get a scary feeling about. Like, I've had ones that come that I know are dodgy, like maybe they're on the run from the police, or but that people can be on the run for from the police for all different things, not necessarily things like this, is it? It's normally drugs issues. But I had one guy. I just cannot explain it. I just got the weird. As soon as he even phoned me up about classes on the phone, I just got this horrible feeling about him. And he was coming to talk about classes, and I made sure I had somebody with me when he came. I wouldn't meet him on my own. That's only happened once. The most overwhelming feeling of, I can't say it was evil, that I felt he was evil, but I just felt really uncomfortable around him. I didn't want to be on my own with him, and I was just, was it about classes? It might not have been about classes because he didn't ever come for classes. It was about interpreting maybe, or something. I can't remember what it was, translations. It was many years ago. And I just had this feeling straight away, I cannot be alone with this guy. Strange, isn't it? But really not that strange, because people like that, when he says he was planning to leave the UK, he was probably planning, and people tend to come to Spain because, I don't know, they think what they think, why they think. I mean, he could have been going anywhere. Maybe he was planning on going to Thailand or France, or I don't know, but so he killed Mr. Alquilino, who was addicted to drugs and gambling, shortly after he was last seen alive in April 2025. And on 4th of June of the next year, the same year, he murdered Mr. Coleman before dismembering him with an axe and burying the remains. There's Dexter. There's been a new series. I haven't seen the new series because it's on Paramount, I think. But yeah, it's a brilliant series if you've not seen it, but hope it doesn't turn you into a serial killer. He accepted that he spent their money on beer and drugs, but previously denied both murders. And he told the jurors they were friends, I got on well with them. And while he was on remand at Exeter prison on the 15th of September, he strangled Mr. Kempster. And he'd previously pled guilty to preventing the lawful burial of the two men's bodies. Now, this is a problem about whole life tariffs, really. I mean, this guy's got nothing to lose now, has he? He's going to be in prison, he's going to cause havoc. He can murder who he wants, because what are they going to do to him? Nothing. Might be able to take away some of his privileges, but he's in prison for the rest of his life anyway. So he can murder anyone that gets on his nerves. Isn't it? He can murder anyone now, and he can't get a longer sentence. That's, what do you do with these people? That's a good case for the death penalty, really, isn't it? Because you think, well, is he just he's 40 years old, say he lives to 80. They tend to live quite long lives, don't they, these prisoners, because they get well looked after. Let's say he lives to 80. He could live to 90. How many people could he murder in that time? Maybe that'll be his mission, because he's got nothing else to do. He'd have to be in solitary, wouldn't he, Kelly? He'd have to be in solitary because there's a danger. And not only to the other prisoners, because this guy probably won't think twice about murdering a prison guard if he got a chance, because to him, he's just enjoying murdering them. The only shame for him in prison is he won't get a chance to dismember the bodies, because that's the bit he likes the best. Oh, God, there is evil in this world, isn't there? There is evil in this world. I tell you what, the devil works through people. So, yeah, he pled guilty to preventing the lawful burial of the two men's bodies. Detective Superintendent Rachel Bentley said the murders were callous and cold-blooded, And she said both men were vulnerable and trusted James Desborough as their friend. So he murdered them, desecrated their bodies, sought to hide the evidence of his crimes, and he denied both men of dignity and their families of the opportunity to say goodbye. He then set about spending their money and also sought to lay a false trail for detectives to follow. Now, so what about the murders? Well, there's other murders that is suspected of. Let's have a look at that. Probably found that on Sky News. Oh, what was that beeping? Don't know why my computer's beeping. For some reason, it's probably going to blow up now in my look. Let's see. There'll probably be an article on Sky News about the UK police. I think you can see that. This is AI. Yeah. The UK police are reviewing 4 unexplained deaths at a homeless shelter, which may be linked to serial killer James Desborough, who was recently sentenced to whole life. We had the same facility with Desborough. Now, this is Sandy Lodge Hotel in Newquay, Cornwall, which is a homeless shelter. So injuries, inquiries and forensic work remain ongoing, but police do state he is not formally a suspect for those 4 past deaths at this time. So they're looking into them. But the thing is, he did not dismember them, of course. So, yeah. So we've got 4 more deaths that it's possible he might have had something to do with. Though maybe not, because, you know, his style was to sort of murder people and then cut them up. But then he murdered the guy in prison, even though he couldn't dismember him. You know, poor Stephen Kentster, he was 65. We don't know what he was in prison for. Let's see if I can find. With a murderer. So was he a murderer? Strangled. I mean, really, another vulnerable person, because he's obviously a lot older than Desborough. He's a lot older than the murderer, and he's, you know, looks a lot frailer, because, you know, that's what can I say? That's what, sorry, I'm reading the chat now. I don't know what he was in for. He may have murdered someone. He may be an absolute twat. I don't know. But he was put in a cell with with this murderer, and he was, yeah, like you say, Sean, cause of death, snoring. Good God. Yeah, but I can't find out a lot of information about him. Ooh, God. There's some grim faces there. Oh my God, it's like watching, what's that? You know, when you watch Judge Judy or you watch some of these programs, you think, God, there's really people like this in the world. It's like, Jesus Christ, sorry, Jesus, but oh my God. So this guy, you know, I think that I would imagine that's his mugshot for whatever he did. But surely nobody deserves to be strangled to death for snoring, unless he was a killer himself, I suppose. Maybe he did terrible things. I don't know what he did, but just seems a bit extreme. So the thing is that the guy, this man, he is a danger to everyone in society. He enjoys killing. he enjoyed dismembering those bodies. He did it for the fun of it, really, not for any other reason. Probably a bit of money, because he took money from their cards and things like that. But he was their friend, made friends with them. It's horrible, isn't it? He's befriended them. He's pretended to be their friend, and all the meantime he's thinking about, he wants to kill someone, dismember them. He's got all those, and it was planned because he had all those weapons in the woods. He'd set up a little kill shelter, if you like, in the woods, hadn't he, near to where he lived. What a horrible, horrible man. Horrible, terrible. He's in the best, well, I'd like to say he's in the best places, safely away in prison, but of course, being in prison doesn't stop this man from murdering people. And as I say, it could be a prison guard next time, because if he murdered a prison guard or the prison doctor or anyone in that prison, not necessarily a prisoner, what they're going to do? What they're going to do is got the maximum sentence. He's in prison for the rest of his life, whatever. So I wouldn't be surprised if he commits more crimes in prison, because he just doesn't give a shit. Yeah, I agree, Sean. His face, when I look at his face, sometimes you look at people and think, oh, they're obviously loopy, or they're obviously evil, or a combination of the two. But you look at his face, and what I see with him is he thinks it's hilarious. He's a psychopath. He just doesn't care. He's almost smiling. It's like, oh, go another murder conviction. Oh, what are you going to do to me then? What are you going to do to me then? Yeah, what a tosser. Anyway.